Actually, I got a message this morning from her. Her mom was being discharged from the hospital today, so she is actually going to be bringing her mom home and helping her get situated. So she won't be joining me today, but just wanted to let you guys know just in case you had worked with her in the past, or you were hoping to ask her a question. I'll do my best to fill in the gaps, but just glad that everybody's here. For those that are have never been here before, have not joined an Adult Day Pro webinar call before, the goal is for us to really kind of get to know each other a little bit. So in the first 5 minutes, what I love to do is have a few people like kind of introduce themselves, tell us where you're from and maybe what stage of opening your adult day center you're in, or if you're already open, where you're at in your journey, in your adult day journey. And then we'll, after about five minutes or so, once people start rolling in, we'll jump into Q&A. Again, if you've never been here before, I always encourage everyone. It seems like everybody always waits to the last minute to do this, but make sure you put all your questions, any questions specifically that you might be going through, that you're trying to solve for. Put those questions in the chat box, because we will use the chat as our way to kind of organize our questions. So put them in the chat. The first people to put their questions in the chat will go in the order that we receive those questions. If we get through all the questions that are in the chat and there's time left over, which is rare, then we'll jump into any other questions that you might have here that if you wanted to raise your hand for. But definitely always encourage everyone to put their questions in the chat, just so it's you can hold your position. And the sooner you do it, the better, because we'll get to your questions first. That being said, whoever wants to, take yourself off mute, introduce yourselves again, your name, where you're from, what stage of the journey you're in. For the next 5 to 7 minutes, we will just do a few introductions. So this is not the time necessarily to ask your question. Put that in the chat. But for right now, let's do a few introductions. Whoever wants to start first, feel free to share where you're from, what stage of the journey you're in, and all that good stuff.
Hi, Kris. I'll go first. Right now I'm at the airport, so pardon the noise behind me, okay?
What's going on? Is it Annette?
Yes, Annette, that's me, yes.
All right.
Well, I'm still in the early stage of my adult day center. I actually have registered with the state of New Jersey, got all the paperwork done. I'm just looking for a building at this point. And I'll pose my question in the chat about all of that, but that's where I'm at right now.
Fantastic. Well, glad you're here. Hopefully, all right. When's your flight there, Annette?
Is delayed.
Okay.
So I'll be flying out of
You
here at
got
8.
time.
I have time.
You
2
got time.
hours.
All right.
2 hours.
All right,
Okay.
girl. All right. Well, I'm glad we can help you pass your time in the airport,
Thank you.
All right. Fantastic.
Good
Well,
to
thanks for
be
joining
here.
us. Yeah,
Thank you.
glad to be part of it. Yeah, make sure you get your question, and we'd love to talk through it with you. So whoever else wants to jump on here real quick and introduce themselves.
Hey Kris, I'm Jimish from Houston. I'm actually in the process of possibly buying a home health aid business, but actually I've been really trying to lean into maybe doing adult daycare, and I just wanted to I've been lurking on the forum for a while, and I just wanted to join a call, see what it's all about.
All right, fantastic, man. All right, well, hey, Houston, I got a good friend of mine, Scott, who lives out in Houston, Texas. And I went and visited him out there, got some good barbecue. So glad you're on the call, man. And Jimmy, if you have any specific questions, definitely put them in the chat. I love the
Yeah, for sure, will
variety.
do.
So far, we've had a lot of, we got Texas, we got New Jersey. Sometimes we get these calls where it's like everyone's from Florida or Georgia or from the same place. So it's nice to have a more perspective, a broader perspective across the U.S. there. So whoever else wants to jump in, share where you're from, what stage of the journey you're in, all that good stuff.
Hey, Kris, it's Alicia from Illinois.
What's up, Alicia?
How you doing?
For those that don't know, you got to follow Alicia's journey. She is an absolute rock star, has completely bootstrapped her adult day center from the ground up, has done a fantastic job. Just, watching her do what
Yeah.
she's done has literally, proven to me that it doesn't matter who you are, how much money you got, you can make it happen. And
Yes.
Alicia's walking proof of that. And it happens to be in a town where my grandparents are from, which is pretty wild. Small little town in
Yeah. Yeah.
Illinois.
Yes, a little town in Illinois. But yeah, I opened in November and we structured the entity as a not-for-profit. So I am still in the beginning stages. We're 7 months in. We have 15 clients. And so yeah, it's just about strategy and scaling, marketing,
Well,
things like that.
I'm so glad you're here, Alicia. And honestly, in the stage that you're in, if you have any questions, specific to this stage that you're in, I mean, other people that might be in this stage that are on
Yeah,
this call could, certainly learn and as we talk through it together. So,
awesome. Thank you.
definitely throw it in the chat. And if you haven't already, follow Alicia you can follow her on Facebook, or MCA Adult Day Center, I believe is the Facebook name for it, or Alicia Kleinhart. She's done an amazing job, and just watching her, and following her journey, really is an inspiration to anyone else that's trying to get started, that's trying to bootstrap it, doing it on a budget. Like, she's living proof of it all, and has done an amazing job at creating awareness in her community. So kudos to you, Alicia. Glad you're
Thank you.
here.
Awesome.
And
Thanks.
absolutely. And who else we got on the call wants to introduce themselves?
Hey everybody,
Oh
my name's
man.
David Hopkins. I'm just here to gain more knowledge from my brother Kris, because every time he's dropping something, I want to be picking it up so I can eat well. What's up, hey guy?
David, how are you, buddy? Good to see you,
Well,
man. Glad you're here, brother. Glad you're here.
thanks.
And David's he's from the senior living, senior care world, and really has done a great job too in the leadership side of the senior care space, which a lot of times I have found that in senior care, uh, regardless of whether it's adult day, in-home care, assisted living, there is a lack of more formal leadership training that you might get in larger companies. And we need better leaders, stronger leaders, in the senior living, senior care space. So, David Hopkins, glad you're here, buddy. Thanks for joining us. All right, maybe we'll do one or two more intros there. I don't know if we have any
Hi,
other folks. Hello.
hi, I'm Nicole Tyler, and I've been watching your videos for about a year.
All
You've
right, Nicole.
definitely you've been a big inspiration for me. Um, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, but I didn't think about this space. And it's pretty odd because I have a 31-year-old special needs little girl. She has cerebral palsy. And in the last 7 years, we've been trying different day supports, and we just can't find one that fits for her. So I prayed on it, and earlier this year, God told me to run. So on the 13th of February, I did so. With very little income, things are happening because they're definitely falling from God. So I'm the owner of the Lex House. We are a non-medical adult day support center for individuals 22 to 45 with IDD.
Love it. Love it.
My daughter,
Nicole,
thank you. Yes,
no, thank you for sharing your story, and you're filling an important need there for sure.
thank you.
Nicole, if I, if before the end of this call, towards the end, I'll try to remind me. There's two people I'd like to connect you with that have a focus in that IDD space, that can certainly help probably more than I would be able to, just because of their knowledge of IDD. And so I definitely want to connect you with them. I don't know if you were on the call when we had Seth Walker on. I think it was like 2 months ago, may have been the May call, but he's someone I would love to connect you with as well.
This is my first call.
Okay, well then, yeah, definitely. I'll if you go back on our YouTube channel too, I believe it was our May webinar. That was the call we had with Seth. He specializes in the young adult day space, and
Okay.
would love to connect you with him. And and then also at some point in time, I have someone else that is kind of leading the charge in in a young adult fashion, kind of like in a respite care home, giving families like a break for like a week, but it's kind of an interesting model. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of support sometimes for this kind of like young adult gap. So would
Hmm.
certainly love to connect you with both those people.
Thank you.
Well, Nicole, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I will do one more person, one more intro, and then we'll jump into the questions. Whoever wants to jump on and introduce themselves one last time here, and we'll hop into all the Q&A.
Hey, hi. This is Debbie Phillip.
Hi, Debbie. How are you?
Well, thank you. Okay, so I have always been in the financial industry, and there's always been these models that talk about the oh my God, I'm losing my thought here. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, I always feel that I wanted to provide some sort of daycare facility because my mom is very attached to me, and sometimes it's very hard to separate. And then I feel sometimes that there are other people that go through this as well, where there's a safe place for their parents to be while they run around and do what they have to do. So it's been something that interests me. And I came across your video and I said I would follow up on it.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here, Debbie. And remind me, where did you say you were from again?
I'm not West Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, it was. Okay, cool. All right. So we got some Florida in the house representing.
Thank you.
So glad you're here, Debbie. Thanks for joining. And if you have any specific questions, definitely throw it in the chat, and we'll get to them here shortly. Man, we'll get into the exciting part, my favorite part, the Q&A. So I think I don't know if is Samuel. Samuel, are you still on the call?
Yeah,
He's,
it's Sam and Emma.
Hi, Sam and Emma. Sam's got the nicest looking headshot on here.
He says thank you.
He's looking sharp in that headshot. So, but
Hilarious.
well, feel free to jump into your guys' question. I know you guys wrote it in the chat. I always encourage everyone, to also share your question, so everyone else on the call and for those that might watch us on the recorded side can hear. So definitely go ahead and walk me through your question. Try to hit the bullet points, and then that way we can leave enough time for the going back and forth, and hopefully we can get you an answer to get you heading in the right direction.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. I'm Emma and I'm in New Jersey. We are basically, we have a DDD agency where we provide services to developmentally disabled individuals, but now we're going into the day program for adult day because we also have a home health agency. So I kind of sort of was kind of like, we have a space available that used to be an event space. It's about 5,000 square feet. It's newly renovated, about 2 years old. Sprinklers, everything is in there. We have tables and whatnot. So we just wanted to figure out if we wanted to move on with the process, how much do you think furnishing would probably take to furnish? How much money you think it would cost?
Sure. I mean, I think there's definitely multiple ways to look at it. As far as when you think about the space now, you're talking about 5,000 square feet. How many how many people would you be licensed for, or were you anticipating being licensed for?
I wouldn't take more than I can bite. I mean, I think our space could hold over 100 people. I probably would start off with 50 people or maybe 25. And then kind of like work my way up there. But kind of like what are the core, like needs for furniture? And like what are we looking at? 15,000, 20,000, 60,000. That's kind of like the question that we both are looking at each other like what's next?
Yeah, the reason why I say it's multifaceted a little bit too is because like one, are you buying furniture new? Two, like to your point earlier, like you can, 100 people might be able to fit in the space, but that would be max capacity. So, really, you might start out where you're like, we're gonna buy for 50 people to get started, and furnish it, for 50 people. The other things to take into consideration, one is, are we furnishing, the stuff needed for a kitchen, or are you guys going to cater the food? And then if you cater the food, are you going to have a light duty prep area? These are things I'd be like thinking about when it comes to each state. Each state might have different regulations around, what a resting room may need to consist of. And,
Okay.
and each state might, define a resting room differently. And so like I would, start to kind of maybe look at my state regs to understand what are some of the specific requirements that the state's going to require me to have. I know when I think about our largest single purchases of things has typically been our chair packages. So when I think about ordering chairs, depending on the type of chair you're going to order, if you're gonna, go through a senior living supplier that's supplying, those, that type of furniture for, like, say, chairs in that environment, those commercial chairs are going to cost anywhere between $300 to $500 per chair, if you're buying them new. If you're going to go the Amazon route, you're probably still going to be somewhere between 100 to 200 bucks per chair. And so even though that those, when you take that into consideration, if you're buying 50 of them and say you're all in, for, each chair at 200 bucks, I mean, there's $10,000, for just the chairs, right? And then you're thinking about all the stuff, for the walls. If there is that light duty prep kitchen, there's going to be, maybe warming trays. There's going to be, maybe certain stainless steel appliances. You might need to have a 3-compartment sink. So, for us, when I think about what we spent on our furnishings for our Sarasota location when we opened, which was 8,500 square feet, we had around probably about $120,000, for our furniture, fixtures, and equipment budget. And I know that seems like a lot, but we had 8,500 square feet to furnish. We had a salon and spa. We have a therapy room. We have a resting room. We have a full kitchen. You have all the office space in the administrative areas. You have your activity storage room and all the storage compartments and stuff like that you're putting there, our utility sink and all those things. So if you're starting from scratch and you're buying everything new, it can be expensive. If you're finding deals and locating, maybe you have an assisted living facility in town that's getting rid of some of their furniture, and you can buy those $500 chairs for $5 a piece. I think it depends on how you want to approach it, as to, like, can I get everything I need, where we're going to the thrift stores, we're looking for deals on Facebook Marketplace, and we've set our own internal budget to be, 20 grand, 30 grand. But that means that we're gonna have to work really, really hard to source these things, and they may not all match. Or are we gonna go out on Amazon and purchase our wish list,
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I guess even like Facebook Market could get some stuff, but besides chairs, I mean, is there any things for the walls? Do you know anything else, like specifically, like is it couches or anything else that would need to be there?
Yeah, so our environment is a little bit different. Like everyone's environment is different, right? So I think about some other people in our space, the way they might set up their environments. Each room might have its own look and feel, and so there might be a different furniture package for every room. Our environment is a wide open space, with chairs and tables, and we've designed it in a way that our chairs and tables can be, moved to accommodate whatever game or activity we're playing. So our entire open area, it serves, as we're, the same place that we have lunch, where we have breakfast. It's also the place that is our dance floor. It's where we play games like chair volleyball or cornhole. And so we might move those chairs and tables around to accommodate the needs of the activity that we're doing at that time. So ours is an open concept, and therefore the majority of our furniture was the chairs and tables, and then really the rest of it's kind of like all the the credenza, or maybe the storage area, or the pictures that we needed to put on the walls. Maybe some of the decor. We have a beach theme in our location. So some of the decor, the things that we wanted to add to the wall might be in alignment with that. So trying to source some of those things, because it's an 8,500 square foot space. If we're thinking about pictures, we can't just go to you Bell's outlet down the street and hope to find a picture sometimes to fit the size wall that we need. So sometimes we had to think about maybe ordering it online, or having it depends on how scrappy you want to get with it. But the beautiful thing about what we do in the adult day space is that you can furnish it, the space itself, for a lot less money than it would cost to furnish, say, like an assisted living facility, where you might have, more sofas or sitting areas, or you might have these nooks of the assisted living facility that might be furnished a certain way. And you might have all the furniture that might go into the individual bedrooms, if you were furnishing them, as opposed to families furnishing them. So I think, when you're thinking about this, I would walk around your space and kind of envision, what you would want to see on those walls, and how many chairs and tables that you want to maybe start out with, and start making a list of all of those things, and then starting to throw a budget at those things, so you can kind of at least come up with an initial budget for yourselves that you can work from. Because you might find that you've set this budget, but then when you go to actually look for those items, that they're way more expensive. Or you might find that, hey, like I know when we first started our assisted living facility back in 2011, we happened to find a Brookdale senior living facility that had just refitted their entire dining room, and we were able to buy the tables for $10 and the chairs for $5. And
Wow.
I mean, these chairs were like, they were the high quality $400 hardwood, built with all the commercial, you could just tell they were built to be sturdy and last a long time. And so when we got them, we had to sand them down and kind of fix them up a little bit and put a little blood, sweat, and tears into them. But we got these really nice, what were at one point in time, $300 to $400 chairs, $4 or $5. And we had to do that on a budget when we were first getting started. And when I think about our adult day center, we bought our chairs. We sourced through again, because of our beach theme, they kind of have that like they have an Adirondack look, but without the slope. I mean, they're safe and they're sturdy, and but they're made out of that kind of like that white plastic, which makes it very easy to wipe down, easy to clean. They're very sturdy chairs. They have the armrests. But those chairs were $120 a piece. Plus, we had to buy cushions for each one. So the cushions on top of that were like another $40 per chair. So we were all in per chair at $160 a piece. But then we had to build them all. So if you can source these chairs, maybe like I said, from an assisted living facility that's refitting their dining room, that could be a good outlet to get less expensive chairs that are a higher quality.
Yeah, thank you so much for those great ideas. And yeah, you answered the questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have our FF&E list, which I could put. I'm trying to think the best way to get it out to everybody. Maybe as a follow-up email to everyone on this call. But I could at least give you maybe our FF&E list, that we use for our franchise and for here, just so you can have an idea of like what items we're thinking about when we're purchasing them.
Yes, that would be very helpful. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, great question, and an important one too. For sure. And Nicole, I see you got some questions here. Love to talk through that on Nicole Tyler in Virginia. here, Nicole. Are you still on?
Yes, I am
All
here.
right.
Just got a
All right.
crazy new phone.
No worries. Go ahead. Go ahead
Okay.
and
So we just spoke a little bit. So you said you were going to connect me with Seth because I have a
yeah.
center that's for IDD.
Yep.
Okay. Um, the only question that I can think of that you may be able to help me with is the question that I've got about the purchasing of 2 buses. So I found a location that has 2 buses, one for 9,000, another for 16. And I've been approved for an auto loan for 22,000. So my mind is going and twirling, and I'm thinking, should I talk these people into giving me both of these buses and using this entire 22,000 for emergencies, just in case my bus breaks down? Or I thought maybe you've got an idea of if I run into an emergency, what I can do.
Yeah, having additional vehicles is certainly helpful. I know we have 3 in our location in Port Charlotte. We have 1 up here in Sarasota. We started out with 1 up here in Sarasota, and knowing that if something happened to ours here, we could always borrow 1 from Port Charlotte in an emergency situation to help out with that. Do you foresee yourself growing into 2 buses at some point?
Yes.
Like, yeah, so I mean, like if you already are approved, for that auto loan, I mean, and if you could even, work out a deal, maybe you can even get them to come down in price if you purchase both of them. Um,
Mhm.
I don't see how you can go wrong there. What kind of buses are they? Are they wheelchair lift? Are they
Yeah.
7 passenger? Is it an old Ford Econoline or like a kind of a new modern Ford Transit, or what kind of?
Both of the vehicles are used. Everything that
Yep.
I've purchased for my business is used.
Hey, there's
Those
nothing
are
wrong with that. We started out, bought brand new vans, and looking back, I wish we just bought them used, because
yeah.
I remember, I was all excited, brand new vehicles, like, and then I felt like within 2 months, they got scratches and dings, and you're like, how did this happen? And they get used and abused. So
Yes.
I'm less emotionally tied to the vehicles.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is, like, are they safe? Are there any major mechanical issues? And then, our biggest thing is we don't mess around with any maintenance problems. If we need tires, we're getting them. If
Right.
if the nail's on the outside rim and there's a potential for that tire to blow up on a highway, like, we're just going to replace the tire instead of trying to patch it. If all the oil changes, they get them on schedule. Any concerns, alignment issues, anything that's a safety concern with a vehicle, we're extremely, religious about, and are willing to, spend the money to get those maintenance items taken care of. If the guy's trying to talk me into a new air filter that was just changed out, 2 oil changes ago, we may pass on that. But if there's a brake concern or an alignment issue or an oil change concern, like, we're very, very particular about those safety maintenance issues for sure.
And I've got one more question. So I am at the end of my opening day, and I'm wondering, when do I start signing people up? Do I start looking for people right now before I've got my Medicaid number? Like, do I act like
Yes.
this in business and go in full force?
So in Virginia, do you have to have an adult day license?
Yes,
Okay. And do you have your adult day license right now, or you have that, but you're waiting on your Medicaid license?
I'm waiting on everything.
Okay. So every state's gonna be a little bit different. In Florida, like, there's certain things that, like, we can't advertise that we provide adult day services before we're licensed. But, like, I've told a lot of people in this market too, is like, before you open, there's nothing wrong with you having a business card and you going around, shaking hands, networking with the community and gathering as many contacts as you possibly can and starting to build your email list, so
Okay.
that way, if you're 6 months out from opening day, from being licensed and being ready to actually serve people, you've been out in the community for the first, 6 months, 9 months, or even a year prior to your opening date, shaking hands, meeting with people, networking, telling people, what you're doing and, what's to come. Ideally you're building that, you're taking all that stuff at the end of the day, taking all those emails, all that contact information, you're putting it into a CRM, so that you have a way to reach back out to these individuals in the future, so that you can, shoot them an email, let them know, you know, uh, that you have a grand opening coming up, or send out a photo of, hey, we just purchased 2 new buses. Check it out. We're so excited. We can't wait to be able to serve our members in our area. Next up, we're getting them wrapped, or whatever the case might be. But like, get your community invested in your story. So you have people out there cheering you on, and that way on opening day, you have a community that's willing to come out there and support you and celebrate with you. And then when you get licensed, they're ready to send you referrals and to start working with you.
Absolutely.
But
Thank you so
you know,
much.
but definitely check your state regulations on if there's any specific rules that they have on, advertising or marketing, and just making sure that you know you're kind of at least in alignment there. But there's still nothing wrong with you out there, shaking hands, passing out your business card, telling people what you're about to do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad you could be here. All right, so we got Jennifer, if you're still on. And Jennifer, your question was about the what is the normal morning routine like? How is morning preparations? Do we start with opening remark or prayer? So Jennifer, if you're still on here, I'd love to have you jump on. Jennifer, I just sent you a request to unmute. So I think, if you're still on here and you got that, you should be able to just hit it on your screen and then you can unmute yourself. Oh, maybe she fell off. All right, we'll go to the next person, then we can come back to her. So Christine, you opened last month. Christine, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. How are we doing, Christine?
Fine. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Feel free to
Awesome. Awesome.
enlighten us with your question here.
Okay, so we just opened, and I am the administrator of an adult day in South Carolina. Uh,
Yep.
we're waiting to have one private pay, and it's kind of frustrating because we're like just wanting the other people to come and get this license, and we're just waiting. So, is there anything we can do to fast forward the Medicaid process? We have license and we're actually up and running, had the opening and all of that.
And so Christina is in South Carolina, is South Carolina a state that has managed care or MCOs, or do you bill the state directly? Like once you get your Medicaid license, do you start billing the state and work with the state's social workers to provide services, or is it something where they have managed care organizations like insurance companies where you get your Medicaid license and then you have to partner and go through credentialing with each individual insurance company?
And so I think it's through the state because we're doing Medicaid and long-term care billing through their app and CLTC, long-term community care.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So yeah, so you're saying there's not like necessarily an insurance company in between you and the state. It's
No,
directly to the
no.
state. Okay.
Right.
So do you have a contact there? Have you submitted your application? How long
Applic-
ago did you submit your application?
Application has been submitted. It's been a long process, but the application was submitted probably a month ago, if not
Okay.
two.
And
And we're
have you reached out to anyone there?
we have, and it's just we've heard the terms 2 weeks for so long that I just hate to hear 2 weeks ever
Right.
again.
Like, you said you submitted the application about a month ago.
Mhm.
Do you have a contact person that's oversees your area or your county or?
We do have one at the state level. I don't know about the county. We haven't spoken with anyone in the county.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like for instance in Florida,
Mhm.
at the state level, sometimes they might divide the state of Florida up, into certain areas, and you might have people in, you might have this one individual who's responsible for like all of the licensing that's happening or all the Medicaid approvals in this area, like
Mhm.
in a certain part of Florida.
Mhm.
So just sometimes, that information is not readily available. You have to go like seek it out, like, and maybe they do have one person that just oversees all of South Carolina. I'm not quite sure, but um,
Mhm.
I just like trying to figure out, if you can, start to make a relationship and figure out who that contact person is, that can help you with this so that, ideally, you're building that rapport with them and you have a go-to person that's kind of like the person working on your case. And I know for us, because when it comes to licensing, like for instance, in whether it's licensing or whether it's going through the Medicaid application, you're still kind of going through this approval process where there's an application involved. You submitted everything you thought you were supposed to. You don't know if you're missing anything or not, and you're just waiting on the state to tell you. So
Mhm.
I know for us, like, when we went to our licensing up here in Sarasota, you know, like we had submitted our application and heard nothing, heard nothing, heard nothing. And finally, like, we had gotten, but we had reached out to them via email, and we always play that um, like really like that very friendly, persistent, person, but we don't want to be too annoying, but we
Right.
want to kind of play a little dumb, so it's like playing a little dumb, like, oh, poor me, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to, make sure I did everything correctly, but persistent where it's like, hey, it's me again. I hate to keep bothering you, but just wanted to check in on our status, see where we were. Did we miss any paperwork? Do you have any idea, uh, where we're at in this, in this process, or how much longer we should, anticipate it taking for us to get, to whatever the next step is. I
Okay.
know, like, when when um when we went through the licensing in Sarasota, that's the most fresh one. I've been through so many of these experiences where you're waiting on the state, and whether it was us going through construction or whether it was us, dealing with licensing or even the Medicaid approval process or even VA approval. I know with the state one here, like, we had gotten our approval letter that was now said that we were cleared for survey. So now I'm trying to find the person in the survey department that can come out to us. And I can almost guarantee you, if I wasn't calling them every single week, trying to, touch base with them, and sometimes even twice a week, that it would have probably taken us another month or two to get through the process. But I sent emails, I made a phone call, and every single week there was some form of communication that I was making towards them to try to get
Mhm.
some answer. Whether it was my hope that someone different would answer the phone this time, or whether, I was able to talk to the same person, but maybe they had one more piece of information for me. But I can say that, like, when we're going through that process, always taking kind of like this relentless, very persistent approach, but killing the people on the other side with kindness, and a little bit of like, you know, uh, kind of playing dumb about, not knowing how the system works, and you're just trying to get some insight, like,
Okay.
either using, like, we have families, who are reaching out to us and, want to use our services, and, they're not able to yet, and we just don't know what to tell them. We don't
Right.
know, like, if we should tell them that we're about a month out, or 2 months out, or but they really want to use our services, and we just want to give them an updated time frame. So kind of coming to them maybe with a different reason as to why it's important that this information, but just knowing that like you're gonna have to be very persistent and reach out to them at least once a week, whether it's by phone call or by email. Just have some sort of touch point where you're that squeaky wheel in that office.
Okay. Okay.
How far
Thank you.
how far away is their main office from where you are?
About an hour and a half. About an hour
I
and
would
a half.
I would just take a run up there and go say hi in person if you can.
Okay.
I mean,
That's intimidating, but okay.
I think like intimidating for you, or you think that might be intimidating for them?
For me, for
Okay,
me.
yeah. No, I hear you. I
Yeah.
hear you.
Yeah. I,
I think
just don't
like,
want to ruin it for us. It's like I don't want them to take it and throw it in the back of the pile because we're aggravating them, but I don't want to just sit here and wait either. So
well, I think I think a lot of times it's all about I think the people that get thrown to the back of the pile are the ones that come
mhm,
off being persistent, but then they're annoying, or they're causing agitation, or they're getting irritated with
gotcha.
the. So I think like when I say kill them with kindness, I mean it's like you come up there with treats, I don't know, cookies, something that you homemade, or maybe you and your one private pay client put together, because she wants some more friends.
Right,
um
absolutely.
so you and your private pay client decorate these cookies that you will bring up there, and you just wanted to make a special visit. I like, when I think about us, my personal money's on the line. Like every day that the state's not getting back to me, or we don't have a license, is
Hmm.
in a, is a very expensive day for us. Like and they don't understand that. And unfortunately, like you can't really get them to understand that. But in my mind, I'm like, look, my whole life is on the line here. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And now I don't want to annoy them. If I start to sense like I've like started this, I'm about to overstep my limitations, or the patience that they have for me, then I'll start to back off a little bit. But I'm
Right.
always trying to like approach it with this very like my whole life is on the line here, and I'm just trying to get some answers. And I don't want to bother you. I don't want to cause more work for you. Um, I just want to know, like, is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything else that you're missing from me? Is there anything on my end that I could do to, expedite this process, or get you another form that I may have missed? Like, just always coming in there like you're trying to make their job easier, and that you know, you're just uninformed and not sure how this works, and you're just trying to do everything in your power to make sure that you do it right.
Okay.
you
Okay.
know and
Thank
I feel like
you.
every time I've ever been through licensing, emergency management, like responses to get our emergency management plan taken care of, going through permitting and construction every single time, I feel like I've always had to do that. you know and I feel like if we didn't do that, I can't even imagine how long some of these things would take.
Okay. Thank
you
you.
know and before you make the drive up there, maybe just you can try calling a few more times, a few more emails, but just always kill them with kindness. Always, thank you so much for all your help. I apologize for all my questions. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a bother to you. I just play the you don't want to come off as the annoying person. It's like like that's getting pissed off at them, or if they feel or you're feeling agitated, like just remember, like, to switch that mindset, and come off, hold in your what you really want to say, and
Uh-huh.
and and come out saying, like, just all the positive and uplifting, and the nice things, but like hold in the true feelings.
Okay.
Because
Okay. I'm writing notes.
yeah. But no, great question, and it's super
Thank
important.
you.
All right, I'm gonna go to, let's see, we got Annette. Annette, are you on?
Yes, I'm still here, Kris. I'm still here. So,
What's going on, girl? Yeah, give me the
so
rundown.
Okay, so like I said, I did the business. I had everything done as far as, with the state of New Jersey. I'm looking for a building, and I just wanted to know if there was any grants out there um, that can be for profit, because I'm for profit. So if there was any grants out there that I can, get involved with, try to get some funds for my building.
Sure. So one thing that there was an interesting study done
Mm-hmm.
that was at the last NADSA conference, and my team happened to go to that class, and it was on grants. And what we
Mm-hmm.
learned is the percentage of grants that are given to for-profit companies is so negligible that like it's almost not even worth the effort.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Mm.
that really, like, 95% of grants are typically given to non-for-profit companies.
Mm. Okay.
So if you're looking, to utilize grants as a way to get into a building or as a way to help out with the startup stage, you may want to
Mm-hmm.
think about, like, what the nonprofit um, side of it looks like. If I were to go that way, what are my pros and cons?
Mm-hmm.
And do I have any apprehension as to turn it into a nonprofit and then go that direction? Because you're going to have way more opportunities to get grant funding if you were to be a nonprofit.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
As a for-profit, you'll have more opportunities to apply for an SBA loan or get
Mm-hmm.
some sort of commercial or conventional financing.
Mm-hmm.
uh but if you're, that's where you kind of weigh your odds out. Like, I'm more bankable if I'm for profit, but I'm there's more opportunities for me to receive grants if I'm a nonprofit.
Got it. Okay. That was helpful.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah, no worries. And Deanna, are you still on, Deanna?
Chris, I'm still on. Can you hear me?
I got you. Yep.
Hey, I want to thank you for your platform. It'll be almost a year since we found you last August, and we haven't missed one yet.
All right, girl. Well, I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
So a while back, you saved us. You gave us advice on contacting and speaking with the zoning board. So thank you for that. So we've been faithfully looking every weekend. So we finally found a place. And we're getting ready to sign our lease to start. But we have like a little bit of angst because of the uncertainty of Medicaid. So what do you think, how you think that's going to affect ADC? I'm jumping all in, but I got nerves.
Yeah, and remind me, when you think about your center, I mean, is your primary focus Medicaid?
Yes, due to the demographics.
Yep, yeah. It's an interesting question because of how broad how broad Medicaid is. So when I say it's interesting is that if you were to break down long-term care services that's being billed through the Medicaid, or the number or the amount of money that's being allocated towards long-term care or senior care under the Medicaid program, adult day is almost looks like a mistake probably on their expense line item, as far as the amount of money that's being allocated to adult day versus in-home care or assisted living or even nursing homes or other long-term care options. So without having like insider knowledge of the conversations that are happening at like a legislative level, I would say that if there truly are these, if these Medicaid cuts truly do affect our senior population and the long-term care services that are available, in my opinion, adult day is going to stand out as the bright, shiny object to save money. So when I think about what these companies are spending on in-home care, assisted living, or nursing homes, or any other services, catering to the senior population, and if there was a cut, and if the way it came down the line was that they had to find alternatives, in my opinion, adult day would be the solution. So it could be a good thing for us in the sense of it, it would cause the state to have to relook, or to, cause these MCOs to have to maybe reanalyze, how they approve these long-term care services, and maybe they, start approving more to utilize adult day over in-home care or over assisted living, or, helping people get out of a nursing home environment back into a setting maybe with their own family, and in a more supportive setting where they could use a service like adult day. So I think in some ways, you know, I cannot imagine. It's so hard for me to think, like, if they cut, I think about our home care agency, we're in Florida, and I think Humana pays us $22 an hour, which we just look at as a complete wash, from like like we stopped taking Medicaid for our in-home care agency just because there's no money in it. So we were still servicing the clients that we currently have, but we just can't make the numbers work, for it to be financially viable for us. But, you I can't imagine if Medicaid were to cut back these services, or cut back the reimbursement amounts in these services. I think you would just have a complete, like, uprising of like these industries. You would have home care agencies going out of business. You would have more nursing homes closing. Like, it would be a complete meltdown, And so I can't see them, you know, uh, I can't see it affecting adult day as much as it may affect other industries, is what my ultimate point is. In fact, my hunch would say that there's a good chance that it may actually create an increase in the volume of referrals that might go to adult day over the other services, but we may not see increases in our reimbursement rates.
Good. That's what I'm praying for. I feel the same way. This is driving my passion. But is there anything out there that we can actually maybe lobby for, or, like, how can I get actively involved to help bring the awareness and make sure that nothing like this does occur?
Girl, if you want to organize rally the troops, and, help us go up to Tallahassee, and because you guys are in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm a nursing
if
home administrator, so we go up like every February or March and do lobbying, but I never see ADCs up there.
no, they're not. The problem is you at the Florida Adult Day Services Association, that they don't have a lot of, they don't have a lot of financial backing, because most of the adult day centers that, are Medicaid funded in Florida, and, they don't have the financials to really, be able to contribute towards the association in an appropriate way, like you might see in the senior living space. So you're gonna have way more lobbyists that are advocating on behalf of nursing homes, assisted living, and in-home care agencies at the state level. You may never ever see anyone there on the adult day side, but, someone like yourself, if you have that familiarity with that world up there, and you could start leading the way, or start advocating on behalf of adult day when you're there for, other reasons. I mean, that could be a great first step. When you're in those conversations, and, this maybe this Medicaid cut comes up, helping to enlighten people to the idea that adult day would be a great savings for the Medicaid program, as opposed to other services.
I have actually, and sent a few emails. And then when I went up there, she acknowledged my email. I sent another email after we talked about it, and no response again. So,
Yeah, I mean, like it's, I think
yeah,
that you said you gotta keep, banging on that
going.
door, keep shooting that, like it's like every single day I said I'm out here preaching that adult day is the future of senior care. The great care crisis is coming. Adult day is going to take over the long-term care industry, and it's going to be the fastest growing thing in the world. I'm talking to myself and the 26 people on this call. Like, I'm preaching this message knowing that every single day there's a lot of people out there that are they have no idea what I'm saying. I'm like speaking Spanish, and but I believe in my heart of heart that like 10 years, 20 years from now, all this is going to completely change. Like, and instead of me being a lone ranger out here, with the wonderful people on this call that I'm very grateful to like have a community of people that believe in this. I think one day that'll all change. We will see this change. And but I think it's going to take us continuing to preach this message and just never giving up on it. For others, who may not be intimately involved in it to understand what we're talking about.
For 1,000%. Thank you for your
So
time.
just
and
don't give
sharing.
up and keep knocking on that door, keep sending those emails, keep preaching that message, and eventually someone's going to listen.
Thank you.
All right, Deanna, thank you. Let's see here. Mary, are you on the call?
I am.
I Mary McClellan. Can you? Oh man, Mary, I'm having you're breaking up. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
South Carolina.
Mary, it's breaking up really bad.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now. I had you.
Can you hear me okay?
So for those that don't know, we've been a part of Mary's journey for a long time. We watched her go from before she opened, going through fire sprinkler hell, finally getting her doors open. So I wanted to get to your question there, Mary. I don't know if you want to try talking one more time. Worst case scenario, I'll try to interpret what you shared and at least give some insight the best I can.
Okay. Are you able to hear me okay, Kris?
All right, now we're talking, girl. We're in business. Let's go. What you got?
Thank you. Kris, we are new at this. Thanks to you, with all the help that you've given us, we've been open now for more than a year. And we are new
Let's
at
go,
this.
Mary.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to you. We are new at this, but we continue to run into little situations, where we might need a little help every now and then. And in all fairness to our clients, we want to do the right thing. And I was just wondering if you could suggest a best practice for us to utilize with our private pay clients. We require that they pay at the beginning of the month. They prepay for services. It's so much easier that way than having them come and collect later. That's
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me, Mary, on those prepay ones, do when they prepay, are they picking a certain plan?
They tell us what their needs are, and we accommodate. And they choose the number of days. We don't accept less than a 3-day commitment per week. And we expect, that they're going to, come for the time that they pay for. For the most part, I would say 85% of our clients who are prepaid private, they're there every day, but you have a handful who prepay and they come less than they are committed or say they're going to come. And then at the end of the month, they want to have the money that they paid for that given month to be transferred to the next month. And we've been doing that, but it's counterproductive for us, And so we've been saying to them, you can make that day up. It has to be within this month here. You can make it up. And I think that's a great gesture on our part, because unless they are sick, if the center is open, we expect them to be there. But if the illness sets in and it's beyond their control,
we honor that. We support it. We respect, the fact that, yeah, we do get sick. And when a client gets sick, we're going to, support them with whatever their needs are. If they
Yep.
have to be out for an extended period of time, we honor that. But religiously, we have some clients who miss a day every week. And at the end of the month, we've got a figure, and when we bill them, when we send the invoice, they call or say, well, we were out on such and such a date. They want to get credit for it. So I was just wondering if there was a best practice, because, I think we're going to have to go back to the drawing board with that part.
Yeah, well, I mean, how about this? I'll share how we handle it, because
Thank you.
there's some similarities and there's some differences between how you guys do your monthly billing and how we do ours. But I think there's maybe some things that you might be able to utilize that we do on ours that you could just incorporate into how you do yours. So we have 3 different plans. We have our, and Mary, you charge daily, right?
We do.
Okay, so we have 3 different plans. We have our hourly plan, we have a 50-hour per month plan, and then we have a 100-hour per month plan. Because we bill hourly, and if anyone on this call is questioning whether they should bill hourly or daily, I don't have an opinion on which one's better. I can tell you which one's harder. Billing hourly is harder. So we have decided to take the hard route. We've made it easier over time, but I just share that just because, like, if you think that billing hourly is better than billing daily, I couldn't tell you which one is better. I just know that we chose the hourly path, and that's the path we're on. But we have monthly memberships. So our hourly membership is pay as you go. It's like a flex plan. Use this as little or as much as you want. And there's not an anticipation or expectation for how many times they may come. For our 50-hour and our 100-hour plan, those are monthly memberships. So if they're on our 50-hour plan, they basically are getting a bank of 50 hours at the beginning of the month. They are paying a discounted hourly rate because they're paying in advance. And any hours over those 50 hours, they would continue to pay at their discounted rate. And then the same thing applies for our 100-hour plan. So we they can only go on to a monthly membership plan on the first of the month. So no one can switch plans in the middle of the month. So say someone's coming to us and they're they're anticipating on starting, and they start in the middle of the month or the second week of the month or whatnot. Then we always inform them on the tour that we know that you want to sign up for the 50-hour plan, which we'll get you signed up, which will begin on the first of the next month. And we do this so that, like, there's a sense of responsibility that they're locked into a plan for the month. And then in order for them to change their plan, they have to give us a 30-day notice to go on or off those plans. And we're trying to use that language to establish some sense of responsibility that when they do go on this monthly membership, it's not like our flex plan. Like, there's a greater sense of responsibility on the family's part to be like, are you sure you're ready for this plan? Because you're kind of locked into that plan for that duration of the month that you're on it. We send out, so when that happens, someone's going on to our monthly membership and they're paying in advance for these hours, what we typically do is we'll send out an email that has an explanation for how our plans work. We inform families that our hours do not roll over to the next month, and if they do not use all their hours, that they expire. We so like, again, you might have to take some of this terminology that I'm using and kind of apply it to how you do your plans, but I think there's some similarities here. But the email that goes out to them, it goes out to them before we go to do their first billing and before we go to do their second month billing. We send out this email to them that has, like, this standard copy, and then it has an attached document PDF to it that just explains kind of all the ways in which the monthly plan works. That, again, going back to, they don't roll over. If there is an emergency, we'll put their plan on pause which is our way of offering a credit into the future. But if there's no emergencies, then those hours expire, and they lose out on those hours. So that's just that's some of the ways in which we try to hedge against that. At the end, like we're trying to do everything we can in the beginning of the month before they pay their first bill, to make sure they understand that come the end of the month they can't just ask for a credit if they didn't use it. And that they're assuming the responsibility of that in the beginning. And then one of the other things that we do is, like I said, we say someone is going to go off that monthly membership plan, then instead of paying in advance, say they're going to go on a trip. We'll give them an example, like say we're in July now, they signed up for the monthly plan at the 1st of July, but they plan on going on a trip in August. Then we would have asked them come July to have informed us of that. So that way, come August 1st, we'll take them off of that plan. They'll enter into our flex hourly plan so that they can still use us, but they won't get the discounted rate. And then when they return from their trip, they could reestablish and go back on to whatever previous plan that they were on, whether it was the 50-hour or the 100-hour plan.
Yes. Okay. All right. That's very helpful. That's very helpful, because we're going to have to redo, our policy regarding that matter. We want everybody to be happy. We'd like to be happy, but it's counterproductive with the way we've been doing it. But we're new at this. We learn every day. But I thank you so much. I'm going to employ those strategies that you just shared.
Well, and Mary, the way you do it, maybe what you do is, because it's not hourly, you're kind of building a plan based on what they say to you, like the number of days they're going to come in that month. Maybe what it is that, like, if they pay in advance to you, they get this discounted daily rate, for being on that monthly plan. But then you have this other plan that's just, it's more expensive. So, that for that person that starts habitually, like, becoming a problem, you could bump them to that other plan, which is going to be more expensive. But then you're not always having to offer this credit. Like, your out is that you can go on the flex plan, and the flex, like our hourly plans, they're billed every single week. So we're never like more than 7 days in the rears on a someone who's on our hourly plan. And then any of our monthly memberships, they're billed on the 1st of every month. But maybe that's a way that for those people that are more habitually abusing that, to like like you're basically talking them back to this other plan that's billed weekly, but it costs more. And they're like, oh, well, maybe we don't want to go back to that because we like our discount, and then they might want to stay on it. But all right, well, we're going to use it this month, because they know that their hours or those days that they promised aren't going to roll over to the next month.
That's what I needed to hear. Thank you so much.
And the biggest thing I've learned, Mary, is setting the expectation up front, because we're telling them this during the tour, after their guest pass, like our salesperson is doing that, and we're also having our billing person, anyone that is going on to a monthly membership in our in either of our 2 locations, before they get their first monthly billing, the billing person is always calling the family to review how the monthly plans work. And our plan, and so that way, we've, like, our salespeople have talked about it, the front desk ladies talked about it, and the final little, like, we just want to make sure you understand, is our billing person. And the billing person's like that third party person that we hopefully at that point in time have that family's undivided attention to be able to truly help them understand how the monthly plans work, so that we can set the expectations up front.
Right. Right. And I know that sometimes they are not always focused on what you're saying to them. And there's so much information that you're probably giving to them that they're not hearing and processing everything that you're saying. But I like what you just said. Just say it over and over as often as you possibly can, But, I have reached a point where when they're right, they're right. When they're wrong, they're right. Anything to maintain, our brand, and to maintain the the status, that we have within the community. I don't want to have residents leaving and bad mouthing our practice.
Right.
So I will,
Right.
I'll give them the money back. It's
No,
so
I get
easy,
it. No, and Mary, it's not like, we're the same way too. I mean, if we have someone that, like, I don't know, something came up and then it didn't work out like they thought, or their loved one, maybe started getting more agitated. Like, there's certain situations, like we have our exceptions, but we try to
Yeah.
establish like the expectation up front. The other thing I was gonna say is, with your flex plan, if you build it out so people can only come on and off that monthly upfront, cost, where, like, if they come in the middle of the month and they start on the 20th, they're going to be on your flex plan, but then on the first they can start on your where you pay up front for the month, and maybe that's where you have your discounted plan. Them feeling like they have to wait until the first of the month and then they're entering into this plan. Sometimes that sense of, like, hold on, we're not ready yet. All right, we're going to start on the first. You'll be on this plan now, but we'll get you to this plan on the first. Like, sometimes that sense of responsibility of like having to wait a month or give a month of a heads up, also helps to add to the responsibility of, understanding how a monthly membership plan works too, So as
Yeah.
you
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask, how do you handle a family or a caregiver who's reluctant about paying up front because they say, like, what if so and so doesn't come every day, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, so
They're
that's where we use our flex plan. That,
okay.
like, again, we have so basically we have $23 an hour, we have $21 an hour, and then $20 an hour. And so $23 an hour, you can come and use this however you want. You're getting billed every single week. You can use this for as little or as much as you want. But once families start to establish a routine, then we move them to our 50-hour or our 100-hour plan. And so that us having those different price points and then the different plans allows us to move people to and from the plan that we feel like is most appropriate. Or if they have apprehension, then we're like, yeah, just stay on our hourly plan. Until we start to build, like, our an understanding of how your loved one's going to like it. That might even help you on the front end sell more people, because if they don't want to commit to a certain number of days up front and you can give them the flexibility, they're going to pay more per day to be on this plan. Like, it's going to cost them more per day, but it's going to give them more flexibility. That may be a good way to just get their feet wet. And then the next month you're selling them on your monthly plan, which you're paying up front for, but they're getting the discounted rate and they have a set schedule,
Great. That sounds good. We didn't
All right.
think of that. Thanks so much. I appreciate.
Absolutely, Mary. Well, just because I love talking to you guys, I'm gonna do one more person.
Thank you.
If you guys got to get off the call, I understand. If you don't have to stay here and hang out the entire time. But I thought, and these are some of my favorite questions I've ever had on one of these calls. Like, we have some really good questions on here. Usually it's like, where do I start? What's the first step? So this is great. Is it Jamesh? Did I get it right? If you're still
Sure
on.
did. Yep.
All right, my
I'm on a
man.
call. Yeah.
Go ahead and share your question real quick, and then I'll try to get through as fast as possible and get you guys out of here.
Sorry, Kris, give me a second. I can't speak right now.
Gotcha. I'll go to this real quick. I don't know who it is. It says my iPhone, but it was about an SBA loan in Ohio. If that person is still on this call.
Hi, Kris.
What's going on? How are you? What's your name?
My name is Ike. How are you doing?
Ike. Doing good, man. Doing good.
Good. So we've been in the adult daycare business a few months now. Our biggest struggle is working capital. So we basically need some funding to keep running. And so we're trying to tap into SBA loans. I've been to a few banks and they seem to be giving us a runaround. So basically, they demand 10% down payment before you can get started, which doesn't make sense to me, because if I am struggling and I need some funding and you're requiring I put down 10% as some kind of collateral, it doesn't make sense to me. So I just want to know if anyone here or you will know maybe some other sources that we can tap into in regards to SBA loans, because we really
Yeah.
need support here.
Yeah. So here's what's tough about it is that, the SBA loan, is so just, for anyone that's on this call too, if you're going through this process, it's better for you to get an SBA loan before you ever start your business than it is to get an SBA loan after you've started it. Because when you're applying for an SBA loan, before you start, you and the bank are working on this mythical, theoretical idea, based on an Excel spreadsheet and a business plan, and so you're able to put budgets into certain categories and come up with this game plan of how much you think this thing's going to cost, how you think it's going to perform, and kind of figure out what the math is going to be like on that. And then in a traditional sense, then in most cases, the minimum that an SBA loan would require you to put down is at least 10%. In today's market, most banks are going to require 15% or even 20%, depending on which bank you're talking to and their risk tolerances. So the hard part is once you've already opened and you're trying to get funding for just say working capital, it's a little bit more difficult because when you're looking for working capital, that working capital is not necessarily collateralized by anything. So when you're getting a loan for working capital, it's not like you're buying a piece of equipment that could be collateralized, or you're buying a piece of real estate, or you're buying furniture that has some value to it. It's being used to fund the operations of the business. So it is a little bit more difficult to get an SBA loan specifically for working capital. Do you have any other businesses, Ike, or is this your first one? Do you have any other real estate or any other I don't know if you own your home, or I'm just trying to think of things that might have equity in them that you could tap into and do an equity line of credit somehow.
Yeah, we do have a home, and this is the only business we have. So
Okay. Because essentially what you're gonna what you instead of applying for like an SBA loan to get working capital, what you really need is more of an equity line of credit. But the hard part sometimes is if you are a new business, it can be difficult for you to get an equity line of credit, because there may not be enough business history there for the bank to, base their decision on how much credit they're willing to extend to you. And so in situations like this, like the hard part is just trying to figure out where you can pull that equity from. I never want to cause someone to risk something like their house or whatever, but like sometimes in certain situations, it may make sense to pull out a home equity line of credit, or at this point in time it may make sense to bring on a partner. I'm not sure the specific details of your scenario, Ike, but or do you have a partner, or could you potentially bring on an investor?
So we are own partners. It's just a family-owned business. So that's open for discussion if we want to bring another external person. So yeah, we might want to look into that. We're just trying to look for other sources of income. That's basically what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and how long have you been open?
6 months, barely 7 months now.
Yeah, I mean the hardest part is like you're in that tough spot where it's like there's not enough business history and you need more fuel. So like it's not an ideal bank loan scenario. So I feel like for the situation you're in, it's either like I got to go get a personal loan, I got to draw from my home equity line of credit, or I got to bring on an investor. You know, and the thing is the investor may cost more, whether it's an equity or it might be a debt equity structure that you might have to give up equity and you're taking on debt, or the least probably like the least burdensome route might be potentially like a personal loan or a home equity line of credit that may not cost as much. Like the interest rate on it may be less, it may be easier to tap into, but obviously you're taking the risk of putting debt on a personal asset on your home. So I never want to advise someone of that, but I'm just thinking if I'm walking in your shoes, how I might be looking at that.
Right. So let me ask one more question. So I can confidently say we're around like breaking even, like breaking. So if maybe weeks and months going forward, we start making like real profits, like pretty good profits. You would think it's the SBA loan might be easier, right? Do you think so?
Potentially, it's just hard because you're in that weird spot of like you've already opened the business, and the SBA loan is more conducive to the person starting their business from like if like getting an SBA loan 9 months ago would have been better than trying to get one today, if that
No.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That, that's the hard. Like if what you're talking about, like say you're crushing it, that's where I'd be trying to figure out, can I get an equity line of credit?
Got
Like that an equity line of credit it's not going to be an SBA loan. That's just going to be a commercial bank saying, hey, all right, you're doing these numbers, looks good. Yeah, we're willing to extend you 50 grand. You might have to say what you're going to use it for and have a plan for how it's going to be utilized, but it's going to be more likely that you would get a business line of credit from a commercial bank. But the SBA loan, it's a tough one because of that. It's less likely that you're going to find a bank that's willing to do an SBA loan for working capital on a business that's a year old.
Okay, so I probably will need to look into the equity line of credit. I think I'll like to I'll do some more research on that and then reach out, because I was thinking they will maybe introduce me to that as an idea. But all along, all the discussions I've had with the various banks are geared towards SBA, and nobody has even mentioned the equity line of credit to me. So that's kind of surprising, but that's good information I'm getting from you.
Yeah, it may be tough because I didn't get my first line of credit until we had our business for like 5 years. And so like it was so up until that point I had relied on personal credit cards to get us through that tough spot. And then eventually I was finally, but it was like 5 years of tax returns and P&Ls that I was able to get an equity line of credit on our business through a commercial bank. But up until that point, I was having to rely on my personal home equity, personal credit cards, and certain things like that because I didn't have the track record yet on the business side of things.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, and if you and your family are involved, I don't ever want to like, I don't want you to think you have to go that route, but this route has a higher probability. There's definitely risk associated with it, but the least expensive debt you're going to ever get is probably a home equity line of credit. So if that is a possibility, that's going to be the most cost-effective debt you could get. However, if you can't tap that or you don't feel comfortable tapping that, then your next best bet is going to be, if you're able to raise money through personal credit cards, or if you're at a place where you can get a commercial line of credit. And those are kind of like just some other avenues to explore.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I think I'm gonna explore more on those you've mentioned.
Yep.
And hopefully we can get something going on that.
Yep. Well, hey, great question. I mean, honestly, every question tonight was fantastic. So I appreciate everyone coming on here and sharing your questions. And you know, I know we went way over on time, but you know, this was a great call. It's fantastic. So thank you all for joining me on this lovely Wednesday. If you you know, would like to join us again the second Wednesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, you know, feel free to join us. The call is always free, and we were able to do live Q&A like this and answer some of your guys' questions. And you know, for those that I did not get a chance to get to, definitely make sure you're the first one to ask the question on the next call and throw it in the chat, and we'll get to yours on the next one. And if you guys have any questions in the meantime, if you have a specific issue that you want to dive into, and you and I can just talk through it directly, you can always go to adcpro.com and book a coaching call with me, and we can talk through your issue together, or any problems or any questions that you might have. We can talk through all those, get into the details, and leave you with some actionable insights. But I appreciate you all being here. You guys get me excited every single month I have these calls. I'm even more pumped up about the future of Adult Day. So thank you guys for joining me this Wednesday. We'll see you guys on the second Wednesday next month. And if you haven't already, make sure, look, this book, I wrote this book for you guys. Okay, The Great Care Crisis. You can get it on Amazon. It's $9. It is a book entirely about the future of long-term care and why I believe Adult Day is the future. And so this book is about us. This is our story. Right now, this is my theory, but someday I believe this will be a history book. But go on Amazon, The Great Care Crisis, get a copy, share it with somebody else, and keep spreading the word. Keep sharing the good news that Adult Day is the future of senior care. And we will see you guys on next month in August, the second Wednesday of the month. All right, see y'all later. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kris.
Take care. Bye-bye, guys.